So before we dive into the video, I just want to give a brief introduction. So I was replacing my engine mounts on my 2006 330i. I dropped the subframe, removed the engine mount, and when I looked up, I noticed that one of the bolt heads that holds the engine support bracket to the engine, that it was sheared off. And there was actually two total that were sheared off. I only noticed one initially, but there were two total out of the four that were sheared off, and half of the bolt was still stuck inside of the engine block. This is a pretty common problem with N52 engine designs. It's a magnesium engine block, so all of the fasteners used are aluminum. So the downside of the aluminum bolts obviously is that they are prone to shear failure. But the one positive thing is that these are aluminum bolts in a magnesium block, so we shouldn't have any rust or corrosion, right? Rust is iron oxide, we have magnesium and aluminum, no iron. So no iron oxide, no rust. So these should be pretty easy to extract in comparison to a steel bolt. Like I said, my car is a 2006 330i, and to my knowledge, these bolts have never been replaced before. So the two bolts that I extracted were probably 13 years old. So this should be a pretty good representation of what you're likely to face if you have to extract these two bolts and the level of difficulty that will be involved. So without further ado, let's get right into it. I don't know if you can see that, but it's sheared off inside of the engine block, so I'm gonna have to take off this bracket, try and extract that bolt, and replace the bolt hopefully. So let's give this a try and see how it goes. So I have a E18 here. I'll try to break this one free. So that is the bolt sheared off in there. I'm gonna try and get a pick tool, see if I can just spin it out, get some PB blast around there. I'm assuming that probably won't work. So the problem with this bolt here is this vibration absorber for the exhaust here gets in the way from this being straight on. It's slightly off to an angle with your drill, but what I have here are left-handed drill bits, and actually what I just was able to do after I center punched it, I pushed the drill bit into the bolt here, and just with this fresh left-handed drill bit, this is a 1/4 inch, I was able to push in and spin and actually spin the bolt. So I'm going to continue to try and push this in and spin it out, and just be able to spin it out by hand here. Nice. Wow. So I was not able to undo this by hand, but I can get my drill in here. So I'm going to take this left-handed drill bit, 1/4 inch. Actually, I downsized to a 3/16 inch drill bit. I'm going to take some Tap Magic. There's some cutting fluid. All right. So just to recap on how I got these out, I was able to get one out by hand and one I had to drill and use a screw extraction kit to remove it. So just to kind of go over some things that I wasn't able to explain while down there. So center punching these bolts here did not shear off nice and flat. So they sheared off at a slight angle. So trying to center punch them, and then also with the drill, when trying to drill it out, the drill bit kept wanting to walk on me away from the center. So I just had to keep trying to readjust that. The one thing you want to be certain of if you have to drill out this bolt is just to make sure that this is nice and straight. As soon as you start implementing any sort of angle to it, you could shear this drill bit inside of the bolt, and then you are in a world of hurt right there. So just a heads up, just to make sure to keep this drill bit nice and straight. So for the one I undid by hand, I center punched it and then used a 1/4 inch drill bit, took the apex of this end flute right here, pushed that into the center, and then these side flutes here were able to catch the bolt enough to be able to unscrew it enough where I could undo it by hand. With the one I had to drill out, I used a 1/8 inch drill bit, left-handed drill bit, drilled out a hole that was about that big, so maybe 4 millimeters or so, and then used this screw extraction kit. I started with the smallest one and worked my way up until one caught. This third one, which is it's a number 3, and it says to use a 5/32 drill bit. I used a 1/8 drill bit, and it worked fine for me. So yeah, that's how I got these out. So let's put some new bolts on and torque them down. So we have our new bolts. These are one-time use aluminum bolts. So we're just going to get the bracket back up into place, hand thread these in, and then we'll torque them down.
So now I got my torque wrench set to 25 Newton meters, so it's 25 Newton meters plus 90 degrees.